Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about a very popular but kind of notorious nib called the Brause Rose, or the Brause & Co. number 76 Iserlon, but more commonly known as the Brause Rose, because you can see there is a picture of a rose stalk on the nib. Now this nib is very popular because it's capable of doing like really big shades, and I love to use it, but the problem is that it's difficult to start. Comparatively, it's quite a big nib, slightly bigger than the Nico G, but that's, you can make really big shades, so you need a big nib. So this is a completely new nib, and I haven't cleaned it or anything, but I just want to show you what I mean. So the thing about this nib is I'm going to dip it in water now, dip it in ink, so it's technically not supposed to work, but just to show you, it's notorious for doing this, not starting. So you can see there's ink on it already, on the back as well, but if I press down, no matter how light or how hard I press, the ink just travels up into the nib. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it just goes up into the nib, and it's very annoying because you want to start writing and stuff, but it just won't start, right? So I'm going to clean this nib first and foremost. So this is my rubbing alcohol, and it's kind of dirty because it's got like walnut ink sediment in it, but it should work perfectly fine. So I'm dipping in the rubbing alcohol several times and cleaning it with a paper towel. So now it should work, right? So again, I'm going to dip it in ink, dipping in ink, and still the same thing even after cleaning. You can see it's starting to kind of work there. Even if I don't apply any pressure, it's like not going, even on upstrokes or downstrokes. So I'm not sure if you can see, but it looks like the ink is pulling up on the nib, and like the final 1mm is dry for some weird reason, right? So I'm gonna show you my method of making this nib work. So there's several ways to do it. So what I'm gonna do is, first of all, make sure that I am dipping the ink fully, like all the way past the eye hole of the nib. It's because this nib is so flexy that it uses up a lot of ink. So if you dip a tiny bit, you're gonna run out of ink real quick. So make sure to dip all the way past the eye hole of the nib, but not over there. So past this eye hole to around here, and not past the flange. It takes a bit of practice, but basically like that. You see? Okay, so the same thing is happening. So what I usually do is I kind of like angle the nib up a little, so that instead of doing this, I'm kind of doing this, and wherever I want the letter to start, I make a little stab on the paper to make a dot like that. So once I make the dot, I continue from the dot, and it works. So it's kind of like a little encouragement for the nib, some place for it to stick the ink in. So again, let's say I want to start right here. If I do it normally, it's not going to start, it's not going to go. Instead, again, I'm just going to like turn it up, kind of like stab the area where I want it to be, and then oops, and then it will go. And so once it starts going, it's a really nice nib. See there, I'm gonna show you that again. That was in slow motion, so I'm gonna try and do it in a faster way. So again, I dip it real quick, stab, and then I go and dip it in ink, do a stab, and then I go. So that's one method. So you don't have to keep doing that all the time. So once you have a letter going, for example, let's say I want to write the letter Brause. So let's say I want to start right here. Again, I'm going to do my stab, and I start, oops, and I start. Again, it can be a little annoying, but you know, it's such a nice nib that I've gotten used to it. So that's my B. So R-A-U-S-E, you know, it's kind of a pain to keep doing that and that and that and that. So what's going on now is that I have a letter down already. So to get this nib going, all I need to do is start it from an existing pool of ink. So what this nib really needs is a kind of like encouragement to start. So if there's already an existing pool here, I just need to like do that. So here's the existing, stab, do that, and here's the existing. Oops. See, so oh whoops. So it encourages you to use the existing pools of ink to keep writing. Sometimes it doesn't go, sometimes you just need to give it some encouragement. Again, I'm gonna write another letter, another word. So let's say I want to write the words the sentence roses are red, right? So again, I'm going to stab where I want to start, because this is the first point, right? And there's nowhere here to contribute to the existing pool. So again, stab, so that's my R. So here I want to continue, but there's a point to continue, so I didn't need to do the stab method there. So R, I'm going to start from here. See there, O S I'm going to start here. So again, there's no space, there's no ink here, so I'm going to stab. Oops. Oops. This ink, this nib is so nice to use, but when it doesn't start, it's so annoying. But when it does get going, it's really good. For some reason, I find that an old Brause nib works better than a new one. I don't know why, maybe it's like conditioned or something, but I have a Brause Rose nib that I've been using for months, and that nib works a lot better than a new one. I don't know why. Maybe because it's like not as smooth anymore, because I keep using it, so it's starting to like rust or something. I'll show you later. But because this is absolutely new, maybe it's harder to use. So that's why I've been using my existing Brause Rose for a long time, because you know, I just don't want to throw it out. It just works so much better in this new one. So I'm gonna start from here, there. Maybe we shouldn't call it a stab method. It sounds very violent. Could call it the starting point method. Yeah. So this is with the new Brause Rose. So now I'm gonna show you my my old one. So this is the new one I just used, and the one that I've been using forever is this one. So you can see it's pretty old. It's even rusted out. I don't know what the white stuff is. Oh, probably white ink. You see, I'm trying not to touch it too much. So I'm going to turn it over, and you can see it's all rusted. And I'm not sure if you can see, but the colors are, whoa, okay, but the colors are kind of duller on this one, on the old one, and the new one the colors are brighter. So I don't know what the significance of that is. All I know is I've been using this one for a long time, and it does look a little less shiny. Anyway, I'm just gonna try it on. Yeah. And I'm gonna write something with it. I'm gonna write the ancient nib something. Again, I did it in ink, and I'm doing the what you call it, this starting point method. So you can see this nib has been conditioned that it didn't it starts a lot easier, right? I'm not sure if you notice a difference, but for me I could feel it. Also the lines are kind of thicker. It still has problems starting. But I just feel like I like this one a lot better. So someone has suggested to me before, a long time ago, that a good way to get a nib like this conditioned is to kind of like leave it in a bottle of iron gel for a couple hours or something, and deliberately, you know, let it get all old. I've never really tried it, but I can see how it would work. So again, this is my several month old nib. I'm gonna write something longer now. This nib is not very expensive. It's about, well, actually it is a little expensive. It's about $2.60 each. But if you get it in in bulk, it's a lot cheaper. Oops. There, saved. Yeah, it has a tendency of doing that because it carries so much ink. You gotta like go faster as well, because if you kind of stall, the ink will blot like that. So it takes a lot of a learning curve. What with the whole stalling thing and the whole not starting thing. But once you get the hang of this nib, it's very nice. Actually, I haven't used this nib for a long time. I stopped using it for like a couple of months because I thought, oh, it's too much trouble than it's worth. And then the other day I just found this again and I tried it and I thought, wow, it's so cool. I can't believe I stopped using it. I'm gonna show you another way of making it right well. And probably by now you're probably wondering why I didn't just do that. But let me just finish this first. U-S-E. Shoot. The wonderful Brause nib. I'll give you a heart attack. This keeps happening. It's like you're trying to fight the nib the entire time. Anyway, there. Right, so another reason why it may not be working very well is because of the ink. So I've been using walnut ink the entire time, and walnut ink is kind of thin comparatively. So another way of making this nib work is to use a thicker ink, because when the ink is too thin, it just slides off, right? But a thicker ink would work better. So what I'm gonna do is use a bleed-proof white, and this is the ink that I find works really well with the Brause. That's why the inside of the ink of the nib has the white stuff. It's because I use this so much with it. So I'm gonna grab a colored paper. This is scrap, and I'm gonna write, well, I don't know, whatever. But first I'm going to mix this ink properly. So that's another thing that you gotta be careful with this bottle. It's not to shake the bottle to make the ink, because then it's just going to, you see, it's just going to get gross, just like fall out. So just get a coffee stirrer and stir the ink properly. I find that's much easier, much cleaner. So I'm gonna write Brause Rose again. So this is my old month-long nib. Again, dip. I'm not sure if you noticed, but it's writing a lot better than the walnut ink. Still kind of hiccups here and there, but not as bad. I'm just ignoring the guidelines right now. So even without the what you call it, stabbing method, it works. So let's try it out. So see, it just starts. Well, sometimes, yeah, I did have to do that, but sometimes, come on, it just starts. Yeah, it kind of depends on how you're holding it too, like that or lower angle. Sometimes the lower angle works a lot better because there's more surface area for the ink, right? So that's the old nib. So let's try the new one and see if there's any difference. But first I'm going to really clean this guy. I intend to make him last another few more months. I'm not sure if you noticed, but you know, for a nib that has been in use for months, it's still it's still looking pretty good. So this was the nib that I just cleaned. Let's try it out now and see if it's well behaved. Again, I'm going to dip it properly, nice and full. Yeah, it works great. Oops. Maybe, you know, don't go too fast with this nib. See, if I go really fast, it's not gonna work. It's gotta be a little slower. New. Browse. So the stabbing method, or what was it supposed to be called? The well, I don't remember what it's supposed to be called now. But you could also make it faster by doing the stab and hold it in place and kind of like shake your nib a little and then go. So you don't have to like press and lift and then go. Because that was just for a demonstration purpose, right? So what you can do is kind of like, say you want to start right here, so you stab and hold it in place and kind of move a little, and that will leave a mark. And don't lift, and then you can just start. So the lift was just for demonstrating, so you shouldn't think that that's what you gotta do all the time, because I had to show you, right? So again, shake and then go. There, that's a railroad. I don't know why it happens. Maybe the ink is too diluted or something. But you can usually cover your track by kind of like, you know, pulling it down. Stabby. Yeah. So yeah, this nib works great when you're using a thicker ink like gouache or bleed-proof white. It does work with walnut ink and iron gel as well, but if you're gonna use black, you might as well use a sumi ink. So let's try that. Let's try a sumi ink and see if it's better than the walnut. So here's my sumi. And the sumi ink is the texture and the thickness is much thicker than iron gel, and as you can see, it works great. Kinda. Sumi. You know, this kind of thick lines works great for reproduction stuff. So if you need to like scan this and print it out again, then a thick nib and a thick ink works great, and it scans great and it vectorizes great. So that's what you want to use. You could use like iron gel for stuff like that, but for some reason I feel like iron gel does not scan very well, because it's, you know, it's so fine and so subtle, and I don't know about you, but my scanner doesn't pick up subtleties very well, particularly when you're trying to reprint something. There is not much room for subtlety. So you can see this nib does thick shades like that real well. Sometimes you want really nice thick shades. It's very impressive, and it's you know, really cool looking. But it also uses up a lot of ink, so you gotta dip like almost every letter. It could be annoying to some, but I'm used to it. But you know, so I'm gonna show you how thick it goes. I don't like to usually flex too hard, because sometimes it can damage the nib, but just to show you. Oh boy, it's too much. It sprung. Oh, I sprung my nib. Oh no. Here, I'm not sure if you can see it. Oh, it was only a few minutes old. Yeah, that's what happens when you press too hard, which is what happens. So this is the limit of the nib. If you press, what was it, like this much, it springs. So springing means, you know, you can see the line between the tines. You see? That means it's gone, it's dead. You can't use it ever again. Every nib has a springing point, and that happens when the pressure on the metal is too much, and the metal just, like, you know, springs like a rubber band. When you press it too much, it'll just like not go back to its original shape. So that's what happened, and I demonstrated a spring on camera. I'm so embarrassed. So yeah, don't go a bit more than that, because that happens. Alright, rest in peace. That was $2.60. Alright, luckily I have another Brause Rose, a new one, not an old one. So I'm gonna try and flex it hard, but without springing it this time. So okay, just gonna do it right here. Sometimes, you know, a lot of people, they like shading or flexing something real thick. Don't really understand why. It's not about how thick you can make it, it's how graceful. So it's not necessary in making it go as thick as it can. It's not the point. It's about making it as graceful as it can. So yeah, I would say this is about the max. which is quite thick already. It's kind of like a brush. So and if you press too hard, this happens a lot, the railroading. Now I don't know about you, but I hate railroading because it kind of like stops you in your tracks. And you gotta like keep going back and refilling the space between. I would rather write with a thinner shade, which I feel is more elegant, than to go real thick all the time, like you know, real. So scared of spraying this one too. Real. It looks almost like a brush. Now you can see I'm getting this kind of shade because I'm also bending the holding the angle of the nib real low instead of up, real low, because then there's much more surface for the shade, right? So again, I'm gonna show you right here, real low. Takes a bit of practice. So I guess if you want like really thick shades, you can use this brush, I mean this nib, and you know, hold it at a really low angle and try it that way. Another Brause nib called the Brause 66 EF. Now this is kind of like the sister nib to the Rose, but it's very small, it's tiny compared to the regular Brause. I mean the Brause we used just now, it's a lot smaller. The thing about this Brause, this one, is that it's also kind of notorious for not starting well. So I'm going to show you. Even though it's small, it should fit in a regular oblique holder. So let's... Ow! So I guess the lesson to be learned is not to force a nib into a flange that won't take it. What do you think? I think it matches my nails pretty well. Anyway, there. So I fit this into an hourglass holder. So this is the holder that holds all the nibs. So it holds this one very well. What I was trying to do was force it into a flange that, you know, doesn't hold a smaller nib. I mean it could but you know, I didn't want to like force it. So yeah, this nib has the same notoriety as the Rose. So I'm gonna clean it. The same thing is happening with this nib, that it doesn't start. See, let's see with the Rose. So I'm gonna do the same method. I'm going to do the stab, and it goes. And one cool thing about this tiny nib is that it writes very thickly as well. So this tiny nib can do that, but also it's very prone to springing, so you want to be careful. I believe this nib is a little cheaper than the Rose, but also very nice to use. So I'm gonna write the name of this nib. So they're both, you know, really cool, but I just kind of prefer the rose better. No reason, you know, I find it easier to manage with. Although this nib is very good too. Brause oops. 66. So you may have noticed that in addition to the stabbing thing I do and the hold and wiggle thing I do, I kind of like press it to the side as well. Oops. So what I do is I press it down like that and move it to this side or this side, because that gives it a better chance of making a dot like that, rather than just going like that, you know, which can also harm the nib. So kind of like go to the side a little bit. So there's various ways of getting this thing to run. You know, it's just up to what you want to do. And you know, I try one method and the other alternately sometimes.